All right, everybody, let's get the show on the road. First and foremost, I want to thank you and welcome you all to our webinar. And my goal in today's webinar, just because there seem to be a lot of webinars out there these days that just kind of are how should I say it? It's just a fancy sales pitch, and you will not get that today. What we're going to talk about today is how to scale your professional services company. We're going to give you very tangible, very actionable ideas today that you can take and implement it right after this call. So, what we're going to be talking about is how to deliver freedom to you and to your business to where you can scale the business to the point where you're working on the business versus working inside of the business. So thank you for coming. By the way, I would recommend that y'all just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Oftentimes, I find that the best way to learn sometimes is to try to eliminate distractions as best as we can. And we have found from feedback from this actual webinar that if you can kind of use this time to really concentrate and work on your business versus in it, and kind of let the emails pass, I'm sure that the world will be fine in the next hour or so. So I just highly encourage you to spend this time really investing in yourself, really pay attention to yourself, and just start thinking about how can you take this information and apply it to your business so that you can scale up your business and we can work on the business versus working inside of the business. So I hope you get great value. A lot of people that have been through this webinar before have said very good things about it. We do take the feedback that you give us and use it to make the webinar better. So I'd love to hear back from y'all after this webinar, and I'll give you my contact information here later on because we're always looking for ways to improve upon the webinar and make it better and more valuable and useful to you. So with that said, why do I actually do these webinars? Well, the answer is actually very similar. It's because I continue to hear these three things. I heard a really, really funny business guy yesterday says that his job is to save the world fixing one copier at a time. And at first, it kind of made me chuckle. But the more I thought about it, I was like, you know what? That guy's brilliant. Really, what our company does is save businesses one business owner at a time. Because here are the three main things that we're hearing from business owners. And as I go down this list, I just want to ask you a question. Do any of these things sound familiar to you? Number one, I'm enslaved to my business. I talked to a contractor this morning who does general contracting for the city of Houston, and I felt bad for the guy, but it's the exact problem that we help solve, which is that he's working from 7 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock at night. And when I say that, most business owners say, well, yeah, get over it. He's actually doing that 7 days a week. So he's definitely feeling enslaved to his business, and definitely he's involved in the business versus on it. The second thing that we hear quite often is, gosh, I have to do my job and everybody else's. So, we're going to give you some very, very practical ways on how to implement a process to where you never have to say that again. And then the last thing that I hear, which kind of brings me a chuckle as well, which is, gosh, I feel like I'm running an adult daycare. In other words, I'm employing these people who are adults, they have families, they have children, they've been to high school, they've graduated from high school, they've been to college, they graduated college. It's a wonder they made it through because, my gosh, it feels like I have to handhold them through everything. And we're going to talk specifically about how to make that happen because what the main thing that you'll find across all of these slides in this webinar that we're going to go through today is you'll find that, and don't let this scare you too much. What you'll find though is that your freedom is going to come directly proportional to how effective your team is. Businesses at the end of the day is made up of people, whether that's a customer, whether those are technicians, whether those are hairstylists, whether those are operational managers, it doesn't matter. A business is made up of people, and we're going to talk about today how to work with those people and how to empower those people to actually take care of the day-to-day stresses of the business so that we can work on actually growing the business, because our entire consulting practice is built upon one belief and one belief only. And that is, if we can free the business owner to work on the business versus in the business, and allow them to go out there and actually make sales calls and make business development calls, we have found that the business almost grows by itself. Not exactly by itself, but fairly close. And we've seen it time and time again that once the business owner is free to work on the business versus inside of it, then the business grows almost independently of what happens with the sales team. Now, we are going to talk today about the sales process and how to empower your sales team. But like I said, nobody is more invested, nobody is more interested in your business than the actual business owner themselves. So, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about how to empower the team to work in the business so that you can work on it. The first thing we're going to talk about, there's actually 5 steps to today, just in the interest of time, and I've been told by my business consultant that less is actually more. And, that actually makes sense. A lot of webinars out there have all this content, and you really can't implement it just because of the sheer size or the sheer amount of information. I just want to give you the first 3 business process that have to be in place, or the first 3 things that have to be in place that will truly allow you to scale your business. So the first thing is you've got to have a roadmap. You've got to have a plan on exactly where it is that you want to take your business over the next 1 year, over the next 3 years, and over the next 5 years. Now, there's nothing magical in and of itself about a plan. When I first started in the business world, I was a project manager at a company called Anderson Consulting. It's now Accenture. It's actually a management consulting company. And one of the first things that they taught us was that before you start any project, before you start any endeavor, you've got to have a work plan. You've got to have a project plan. And what I noticed about that plan is there was nothing special in and of itself about that plan. I mean, it was just an Excel spreadsheet at the time. I think now, Microsoft Projects, or there's Gantt charts out there that you can certainly use. But what we just used back then was just a very simple spreadsheet that basically detailed, okay, here is the end goal that we're trying to achieve with this project. And then here are the things that we have to do on a day-to-day or week-by-week basis to ensure that we actually get to our goal. And what we found with this document, with this plan, is that it really was the glue to the entire team. In other words, we had a common document that everybody can go to and say, okay, who's responsible for what expectations do we have, what results do we need to achieve by when, and it was very clear as to the expectations that each person had, and everybody was moving in one direction towards a common objective. So, like I said, there's nothing special in and of itself of the actual plan itself, but what it really does is it keeps people rowing in the same direction in a unified front to really accomplish the objectives of the actual business. So the first thing you have to have is your roadmap. So let's talk about the different components and the purpose of that roadmap. So that roadmap, if it's good, if that plan is good, it should have 3 parts to it. It should engage your employees or your team members. It should empower your team members, and it also should encourage them. Now, we're going to go into some detail on these 3, but I just kind of wanted to highlight what the 3 things that a good business plan or a good plan for your business entails. The first thing it must do is it must engage your employees. We find that if you understand where you want to take your business, and then can translate that down to your team members on what goals they want to achieve in their career, and you can marry those 2 things together, we find that your employees at that point become motivated, or what we call they become engaged. Because the best definition of leadership that I've ever heard from is actually by a president named Dwight Eisenhower. And he said that leadership is nothing more than having a vision of what you want to accomplish in the future, and then engaging other people to achieve that same future in a manner that benefits themselves. Let me say that one more time in case you want to write that down, because I think it's worth repeating. Eisenhower said the definition of a leader, and an effective leader, is one who has a vision for where they want to take their organization, then finds out what motivates or what other people want to accomplish, and then finds ways to help others achieve their goals while at the same time achieving the goal of the organization. So that's our definition of engaging people. And the more your people understand what it is that you're trying to achieve with your company, and the more they understand how they can fit into that and accomplish their goals as well, that will create all the motivation that you need, because employees only want two things. The first thing that they want is they want to feel appreciated for the work that they do. Now, the reason I'm laughing is because I've had some of my clients tell me, Charles, I don't appreciate anything that they do. And if that's you, hey, I've been there and I do this for a living. What I would say to that is find something, even if it's, do they come to work on time? Do they come to work late? No, I don't think we want to appreciate them for that. But anyway, find something throughout the day. So, you know what? Hey, I appreciate the fact that you're here. I appreciate what you're doing for our company. Just find reasons to appreciate them, because oftentimes, more than all they really want is to be appreciated. And the second thing is to reinforce or find out for them what it is that they want to achieve in their career, and give them an idea of how they can accomplish that goal within the actual business itself, because that in and of itself would go a long way to actually engaging and motivating your team. The second thing is empowering. Empowering, our definition of that is giving your team members a set parameter as to, or a framework as to what results that you expect from each of them, and then basically give them all the tools, all the resources they need to get there. I'm not a big believer in micromanagement. I think that although there are certain cases where micromanagement is effective and needed, I find that if a business owner has to consistently micromanage somebody, they're losing opportunity costs and growing and working on their business versus inside of their business. So empowering means being very specific, very clear as to what expectations you expect from them, and then holding them accountable to it on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. And you know what? We find that oftentimes businesses, the reason why they're not progressing forward is because there's not a feedback loop or an accountability loop to ensure that what results they're expecting is actually happening. One of the things that you may have heard in business at one point is that you inspect what you expect. And a great way to do that is you first have to make it very clear to your team members what exactly do you expect out of each role. And what I mean what you expect is what are the specific, measurable, and time bound things that you expect from them. For example, if you just are telling people, gosh, if you just did your job, or I just want you to do a good job, the reason why most business owners get frustrated is because when they tell them that, and they're not specific, and they're not measurable results that they can expect, what ends up happening at that point is that the employee is left to their own devices as to what they think is a good job. So the more specific, the more tangible you can make it, that's where you start seeing the results happen, and avoid things like, I feel like I run an adult daycare, or I feel like I'm always doing somebody else's job. So the more specific, the more measurable, and the more time bound you can set expectations, the better. So hope that was helpful. And here's kind of a slide that I really like, which is your business plan is critical. Without a plan, your business really derails. If your employees do not know where true north is, I guarantee they will find someplace else to go. It's just the nature of the beast. So if you do not have a plan, and a specific and a very easy and simple to follow one-page plan, your business will derail, because here's the thing. Each and every day, businesses are bombarded with all these great ideas, all these great, sales offers. And what ends up happening is they say yes to all these shiny new objects, but they never say, how does this shiny new object relate to or fit into what I'm trying to accomplish with my business? One of the first things that we're told or we're asked when we start a business is, hey, what marketing system should we use? Should we use Google AdWords, direct mail, telephone? What should we use? And my simple yet very frustrating question or answer to that question is, you know what? I don't know. How much revenue are you looking to accomplish? How fast do you want to get there? What's your advertising budget? Who's your ideal client? What message do you want to deliver? So there's so many things that go into choosing which marketing plan to implement into your business that oftentimes business owners are frustrated because they don't know what true north is. Because what affects your marketing plan, what affects your sales plan, is what it is that you're trying to accomplish in your business. So if you don't know what true north is, you're going to let the next shiny object distract you away from what it is you truly want to accomplish. So the best thing besides keeping your team together and all moving in unison that your business plan does is it keeps everybody on the same page, and it also keeps you focused on what it is that you ultimately want to achieve. Now you can weigh every decision you make in your business as to whether or not it's going to progress you towards your goal or distract you away from your goal. So that is why a business plan is so crucial. So, and for those of you that are saying, how do I do that? How do I go about developing this plan? At the end of this presentation, I'm going to give you a very simple way to take that next step and do that. So the first thing is you have to have your plan. The second thing you have to have is your business development system. If 90 to 95% of the sales is dependent upon you, you are going to fall short. Because let's face it, no one person, I don't care how big you want your business to get to, you cannot be solely responsible for all the sales in your business. I also find that to be especially true when a business owner or client goes out there and tries to sell their business. If a business owner goes out there and doesn't have a business development system that is repeatable and scalable, and the only way that that business generates new revenue is due to the salesmanship of the business owner, then what is the market value of that? I mean, think about that. If I have my own business and our sales are directly proportionate to how many times I network or how many times I execute the sales process, what is the value of my business to a third party? Well, there is going to be some value because of cash flow or because of the balance sheet or whatever, and there's always going to be some goodwill and of course contracts. But my business becomes less marketable if I am the only one that is solely responsible for generating sales. So your business development system is a selling system that generates revenue independent of the business owner's efforts. Now, I know that it may sound that I might be contradicting myself just a little bit because I said earlier that our business works with a premise that if we can free the business owner to work on the business versus in it, that sales will naturally grow. This is not an either or type of thing, it's a both. Yes, we understand that if we free the business owner, the business will grow almost by itself. However, to make it marketable and to sell it for a premium above market rates, we need to be able to show our buyer or the people we're trying to sell it to how to sell or generate revenue without you being involved, because that makes the business more valuable. Also, I find that business owners like doing things besides work. They like going on vacation, they may want to open up another business, or they may want to spend more time with family. So, what that does by implementing a business development system that doesn't require you, what that allows you to do is enjoy more free time, enjoy more time working on things you love to do versus have to do. And it also spreads the stress of having to be solely responsible for all your sales. So, what does the business process look like? Now, we're not going to go, there's actually 7 steps to the sales process. Today, we're only going to cover 3 of them just in the interest of time. But for those of you that have a pen and paper or would like to get a pen and paper, this is probably the only time that you really need to write something down. So I want to go ahead and give you the 7 steps of the sales process. And we're going to go through the first 3 in detail. So the 7 steps are, first step is you've got to be able to generate leads into your business. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is relationship building. That is a process in which you educate your prospects on why they should do business with you versus the competition. Step number 3 is discovery. And we'll go through these first 3 in great detail here in a little bit. I just want to give you an overview. So lead generation, step 1, relationship building, step 2, discovery is step 3, presenting is step 4, overcoming objections is step 5, asking for the order is step 6, which, by the way, less than 34% of salespeople ever ask for the order. And step number 7 is asking for referrals, upsells, downsells, and cross sells. So let me go through those 7 one more time, just in case you miss one. The first step of the sales process is lead generation. Second step is relationship building. Third step is discovery. Fourth step is presenting or making effective presentations. Step number 5 is overcoming objections. Step number 6 is asking for the order. And then step number 7 is asking for referrals, upsells, downsells, and cross sells. Now, why do I choose to only spend a significant amount of our time on these first 3? Here's what I have learned. If you get the first 3 steps correct, you are 90% of the way there. And I'll show you why here in just a second, but let me repeat that one more time. If your company gets very good at the first 3 steps, you're 90% of the way there towards having a scalable and repeatable selling system. So let's talk about each one in detail. So the lead generation system. The lead generation system is anything that your business does to get in front of your target market with the right message using the right media. So there are 3 variables that have to work in unison for your company to be able to generate a lead. So the first thing is you have to choose who is your ideal market. In other words, who is it that your business is best suited to serve? And there's 2 types of research that you must do to identify who your target market is. You have to choose the right demographics, and then you have to choose the right psychographics. So within a market, there are demographics, and then there are psychographics. What in the world is that? Glad you asked. Demographics are numbers or things that you can query a database for. For example, you can query from a database how much revenue a company does, the title of the person you're looking to meet, the geographic location of the person you're looking to meet, the household income of your target market, how many kids your target market has, how many employees your target market has. So demographics are all of the things that you can search a database for that meets your target market that you're trying to attract into your business. So those are demographics. The second thing is psychographics. Psychographics are the reasons why they buy something. One of the companies that we have a lot of experience with is plumbing companies, air conditioning companies, and for that matter, service contractors. And of all my years in practice, I've yet to meet the same company twice. Every single company has kind of like its own fingerprint of itself with its ideal customer to fit. Because here's the thing, if you're thinking this now, say, Charles, this is a bunch of baloney, I can service everybody. Here's the problem with that. If your market is everybody, you can't market to anybody. Let me say that again. If your target market is everybody, you can't market to anybody. And here's why. Every single business that I know, whether it's General Electric or a startup company, has 2 big limits: time and money. We can only spend so much time and so much resources, meaning money often, in attracting our target market. So if you can't whittle down your target market, you're going to run out of resources, and all of a sudden you're going to have a business that is serving 10 different types of customers with no consistency of experience. The most effective, fastest growing companies that I've ever come across and that I've coached have a very narrowly defined market that they're going after. So if you cannot define who your target market is, I highly encourage you after our call today or tomorrow to take a piece of paper and a pen down and say, okay, what are the demographics of my target market? And what are the psychographics of my target market? Because that'll hone in on exactly who you want to market to and why they should buy from you versus anybody else. So the first thing to have in place is we must have a very good understanding of exactly who our target market is. And here's why. The second variable is having the right message. So the second thing necessary to have an effective lead generation system is to have the right message. A lot of marketers, and even I, call it your unique selling proposition. And the unique selling proposition is nothing more than something that answers the question, why should I do business with you versus anybody else? It's funny, I asked somebody this past Tuesday, hey, why should I do business or why should your target market do business with your engineering firm versus anybody else? And I heard the most common response that most business owners make when answering that question. And here it is. And I'm sure you've heard this. You may have even said it before. Okay. Which is this. We have the best service. We've been around for umpteen years and we have the best prices. Here's why that doesn't work, ladies and gentlemen. The reason that doesn't work is because nobody is looking for the worst quality, the newest company on the block, and the highest prices. They're not. Most companies, when I look at their marketing copy or the message on their website or the message they give out to the marketplace, one of the biggest reasons that they're not generating the leads that they need to get their business to the next level is because they haven't educated the customer on why they should do business with them versus anybody else. Because if you look at your competitors, I just challenge you, take a look at your top 2 or top 3 competitors and compare the copy on your website to your top 2 or 3 competitors. And most often the case is that you sound exactly the same as anybody else does. Here's the issue with that. If you cannot explain to your target market what makes you different and the value that you provide that your competitors either don't or don't say, most of them aren't going to say it, even though you may know that they do it. What happens is the only thing that you can compete on is price. That's it. If everybody else sees that y'all are exactly the same and there's no difference between one contractor and another, there's no difference between one engineering company and another, there's no difference between one hair salon and another, then you're forced to compete on one thing and one thing alone, which is price. Your message or your unique selling proposition is what attracts the right people to your business and keeps the bad business out of your business, which actually is just as important.
Muted. Muted. Muted.
All right, guys. Sorry about that. For some reason, the sound went out. So hopefully, y'all can hear me. It looks like y'all can. I sincerely apologize. I'll keep going. So, where I ended is that if you cannot differentiate yourself from anybody else, the only thing that you're going to be able to differentiate yourself on is price. So, if you do not understand what is your differentiator is, some of the best people to ask is your existing customers. Simply ask them, hey, of all the companies you could have chosen to do business with, why did you choose us? And oftentimes, what they tell you will be of gold to you because then you can use that on your marketing material. So, the second component necessary to have in your lead generation system is having the right message. And then the third process or the third component is choosing the right media. In other words, now that I know who my target market is, and now that I know what my message is, in what manner does my target market want to know or want to hear my target market? Michelle, thanks for the note. I appreciate that. I got it. Hopefully you can hear me. It looks like you can, but I appreciate that. So the last component of being able to generate leads on demand for your business is choosing the right media. And it becomes very easy to choose the right media once you know who your target market is. For example, if your target market is a household that makes 100,000 to 150,000 a year in Dallas, Texas, for example, and they're 55 to 65 years old, there's a fairly good chance they're not going to find you off of a Google AdWord. They're going to want to be referred to you. They're going to want to have a direct mail campaign, perhaps. They're going to want a telephone call because that's how they're used to finding their service providers. Whereas if you're a 25 or 26-year-old looking for, say, for example, a plumbing company, they're probably not going to find you from the referral of a friend. They're probably going to go online and look for you. So by understanding exactly who your target market is, that allows you to find out, okay, what what media or what communication channel should I use to deliver my message to the right target market? So every time that you're not generating enough leads for your business, only one of those three things you're going to be off. Either you've chosen the wrong target market, you have the wrong message, or you're not using the right media. So hopefully that was helpful to you. The second part is relationship building. So the relationship building process starts after the business has generated a lead. So in other words, we define a lead as someone who has heard your target, heard your message, and have responded by saying that we'd like to have a further conversation or we would like further communication with you and your company. So that is a lead. A lead is not going out there and getting a list of 1,000 businesses you want to do business with. That is not a lead. Those are suspects, not leads. A lead is somebody that has raised their hand and said, yes, I'm interested in having further conversations with you. So I hope that makes sense. So the relationship building process is using education to show them what makes your company different than any other. So you could use free reports, you can use videos, which is becoming more and more popular, using self-help videos or giving good tips on how to on something relevant to your marketplace. So we have found that even though there's a lot of information on the web, one thing that is sorely missing is wisdom. We define education or we define um, knowledge as basically just having a whole bunch of facts and figures memorized or learned. Wisdom is the ability to apply that information. So, one of the things that we have found to be very, very helpful is a free report. The three biggest mistakes businesses make in generating leads and how to fix them all. That is a report that is intended to take our knowledge and provide wisdom on how that business can generate leads on demand. So relationship building is giving your prospects or giving your leads, and we use the term prospects and leads interchangeably, to show them or educate them on how you can serve them better than anybody else can. So that's relationship building. Other people may call it the follow-up process. I actually talked to an air conditioning company in Lincoln, Nebraska today, and we found that one of the key elements he was missing is following up on his leads. He would have leads that he didn't follow up with for 2 or 3 weeks, and at that point they're dead, they're gone. So it never ceases to amaze us how much money and how much time people spend on generating leads, but how few time is spent on cultivating and building that relationship by staying in touch with them. So the relationship building or the follow-up process is absolutely critical. Now, after the lead generation system and after the relationship building process, after that, your marketing process is over. Anytime you have a voice to voice or face to face conversation with your lead, you're no longer in the marketing process. Now you begun the sales process or the one to one sales process. And at that point, the most important thing you can do is ask great questions. So many salespeople think that selling is about telling. It's not. Selling is about asking the right questions to where you can understand where your prospect is currently in their life, in their business, with whatever challenge they're in, and then what would it take, or if they could wave a magic wand, what would it look like if that challenge or their current state of life has been fixed? So discovery is nothing more than asking questions as to where that person is now, where they would like to be, what they have tried in the past to overcome that challenge, and why has it not been resolved yet. Because here's what I found. If you can ask the right questions and listen to the responses, it will not take you very long to come up with a solution to whatever problems or whatever challenges or wherever state your customer or your lead eventually wants to get to. People will close themselves into doing business with you if you simply just listen to what their challenges are, understand where it is they're trying to get to, and provide them your solution on how to get from point A to point B. I have found that selling is not that hard. It's simply a matter of asking questions to find out where your customer or where your prospect is now, where they would like to be, what they have tried in the past to fix it, and then presenting them with a solution that makes sense for them. And you know what? Sometimes that solution is, you know what? I can't help you. You're not my target market. I don't have the solution you're looking for. I cannot accomplish that in the time that it takes. Because my definition of a good salesperson or a good business development process is a process in which you are serving the people that you're meant to serve and that you're not serving the people that you're not meant to serve. Somebody who pushes stuff on people, products and services on people, in my opinion, is not a salesperson. That person instead is a pressure cooker. All they care about is themselves. All they care about is taking your money. They do not care about solving your business case or your personal issue. That is not a salesperson. That is a pushy, slick, I don't know what you want to call them. But the definition of a great business development system is one in which extracts what it is that your customers are looking for, what it is they're trying to achieve, and then simply provide them a solution on how to get from point A to point B. So what happens when you actually execute this type of a process? Well, in this case, Mike Ratchford, he's here in Houston. He runs a direct mail company. I don't know if you've seen the stats on direct mail companies. Their sales went up 29% in 7 months. So it actually really does work. All right. So we've talked about how to create your plan. We talked about the 3 steps of your plan. And like I mentioned earlier, I'll give you an option on how to go about creating that plan. But the last thing that I want to talk about is your operation strategy. And what the operation strategy addresses is, okay, now that we have our plan, now that we have our business development system, how can we make sure that once somebody becomes a customer, they're actually taken care of? Because the best businesses in the world, 80% of their business comes from their existing customers. So many business owners that I know clap their hands and they do the rah-rah speech once they get a new customer. We only do the rah-rah speech and clap our hands when our clients actually achieve the goals that they have hired us to help them achieve. Because at the end of the day, what really, really grows a business is first and foremost by keeping your existing customers and then growing your base from there. So we're going to talk right now in our last 20 minutes about how to ensure that the customer experience is up to your standards each and every time. All right. I love what Michael Gerber says. He says the purpose of business is to get and keep customers. Well, all due respect to Michael Gerber, I think he wrote a great book in the E-Myth, but I really think that the purpose of business is really to help people solve a business or personal challenge. But you know what? Michael Gerber's been around it for 40 years. I've been at it for 22, so I'll default to his expertise and say, yeah, okay, fine. The purpose of a business is to get and keep customers. So a great operation strategy includes three things: KPIs and KRIs, and I'll define that in just a second, your customer satisfaction loop, and your referral system. So let's talk about KPIs and KRIs in just a second. Indicator. Your KRI stands for your key result indicator. So a key result indicator is what you expect from every single role and every single person in your company. Most of the reason why most business owners are frustrated with the performance of their employees is because they have not articulated exactly the result that they expect from each position and each person inside of that company. Let me give you an example. So one of the teams we work with a lot is sales teams. Okay, so most people or most business owners that I have seen, they say, "Hey, just go out there and sell something." Okay, well, shoot, I'll go out there and sell a Diet Coke. I don't know. So a key result indicator is specific, it's measurable, and it's time bound. In other words, it has a deadline. For example, a key result indicator for sales would be we expect our sales team each to close $25,000 in sales each month. That's specific, that's measurable, and it has a deadline, 25,000 each month. For our customer service reps, we expect 100% customer satisfaction based upon our customer surveys. So those are the actual results. We find that each position at the companies that we work with have three specific results you expect from them. So one of the action items you can take from our call today is to go to each person and articulate to them what are the three things that you expect from them each and every day, each and every week, and each and every month, and make it so simple for them that it cannot be left to interpretation. In other words, what are the specific, measurable, time-bound things that you expect from that person on a day-to-day, weekly, or monthly basis? So that's what KRIs are, key results indicators. KPIs stand for key performance indicators. So for example, I'm going to go back to the example of the salesperson closing $25,000 in sales each and every month. That's great. However, I also need to give them a recipe book or activity to perform or expectations around performance on how to go about getting $25,000 in sales. So for a salesperson, I might say, okay, you need to make 100 calls a week, or you need to ask for a referral every day, or you need to attend one networking event. So a key performance indicator are the standards of performance that each of your people and each of your roles inside of your organization have to perform in order to get the results that you expect from them. Now, I get the question a lot. Well, Charles, if I bring on an experienced salesperson, do I need to hold them accountable to both KRIs and KPIs? My answer to that is no. If you feel like you have an experienced salesperson and feel like it would be juvenile or elementary to keep them accountable to the key performance indicators, I would recommend for them to just keep them accountable to the results that you expect from them. Now, if they are not meeting those expectations, then go back to actually keeping them accountable to the KPIs as well. But the number one reason why people are not effective is because the business owner or the manager or someone, whoever they report to, have not been specific on exactly the results they expect from each person in the organization. And also, that makes it very, very frustrating for the employees as well because they don't know really whether or not they're doing a good job or not. And although it may not feel that way sometimes, employees don't want to come to work each day feeling like they're getting an F or a D on their paper. They want to succeed. They want to feel like they're a valuable member. They want to feel like they're appreciated. And one of the ways that they're often not is because they have not been communicated exactly what to expect on a day to day, week by week, month to month basis. So if you haven't done so already in your business, and there's a lot of people on the call today, so I don't know whether you've done this or not, but if you have not been very clear on what you expect from each person in your organization in a manner that is specific, measurable, and has a deadline or time bound, I would start there because you'll probably see a drastic improvement in performance once you explain to them exactly what you expect. So that's the first operation strategy is exactly what do you expect from each role and each person in your organization. The second is customer satisfaction. And with this, of course, I agree with Michael Gerber that it's much easier to keep a customer than it is to create a new one. So having a customer satisfaction loop is absolutely critical. How does your business keep the lines of communication open with the customer to ensure that the customer got the value that they expected during the business development process? Which brings me up to my number one huge big point. If you listen to nothing else I say on this call, please listen to this. And I hope our VoIP doesn't go bad because I really want to make sure I bring this home. A business that is healthy, vibrant, and growing does not operate in silos. Let me say that again. A healthy, growing, and functional business does not operate in silos. In other words, it understands that sales is crucial to operations and that operations is crucial to sales. One of the biggest reasons for a lack of customer satisfaction is because the way that it was sold was not the manner in which was delivered. That's why your sales process has to be in line with your operations process. Otherwise, you don't get the customer satisfaction that you are after. So, if you currently do not have a way to measure to make sure that your customers get what they expect or the reason they hired you for, I highly recommend doing so because businesses are missing out on some crucial, valuable information on what can help get their business better. I have found that the best people to give me advice on how to improve my business are my actual clients. That's why we always leave the lines of communication open. And that's why we're constantly asking our clients whether or not our calls are helpful and whether or not we're actually helping them achieve whatever they are setting out to achieve. And the third operational strategy that I think absolutely must be there is your referral system. Now, I'm not talking about your passive referral system, I'm talking about your active referral system. So, what in the world is that? A passive referral system is a referral system that basically waits on the customer or your client to give you a referral. In other words, you're kind of waiting on somebody else to give you a referral. That's not the referral system that I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the proactive referral system. In other words, at what point while you're delivering value to your customer do you ask your customers for a referral? Because by far the most effective, not the most efficient, but the most effective way to grow your business is to get referrals from your happy customers. Because these people already know you, they already like you, they already trust you. So, what better than the trusted word or recommendation from one of your clients to one of their friends, neighbors, or family members? So, if you do not have a proactive referral system in place, you're missing out on a significant amount of revenue. I don't have time to go into today exactly how to build that referral system. What I just say is that if you're not consistently asking your clients at the right time for referral, you're missing out on some of the best marketing and prospecting that you can ever do. So, an effective operation strategy has three things at basic involved in it. Number one, you set very clear expectations using KRIs and KPIs with your people. Number two, you have a feedback loop to make sure that your customers are being delivered the value that you have set out to deliver. And the third is a referral system that proactively and consistently asks your clients and customers for referral to other people just like them. All right, hope that was helpful. Okay, so here's my question to you, and here's some takeaways. My first thing is kind of going back to our plan. Where do you want your business to be in 1 year? Where do you want your business to be in 3 years and in 5 years? And be specific about this. Effective goal setting has 5 unique characteristics. You may have heard it as SMART goals. Your goals should be specific, they should be measurable, aligned with your values, reasonable, and time bound. Repeat that again. Your goals should be specific, measurable, aligned with your values, reasonable, and time bound. Don't just say that I want to grow my business. How much do you want to grow your business? By what time do you want to grow your business? What specifically do you want to grow it by? Is it 20%, 25%, 30%? The more specific you can make it, the better and faster you will actually reach your goals. So, in summary, the first 3 steps in scaling your business is number one, you've got to have your plan. You've got to have that plan that unifies everybody, gets everybody on the same page towards a common objective. The second step is having your business development strategy that is effective at generating new leads and generating new sales with your ideal customer. And the third is having your operation strategy that communicates your expectations to each role in your organization, keeps them accountable to those expectations, and then has that feedback loop to make sure that you're delivering what you set out to promise or what you set out to deliver during the business development stage. Now, where do we go from here? Well, one of the things I talked about earlier was having this one-page plan. And creating the one-page plan is actually a lot easier than you might think. So what does this one-page plan look like? Well, it looks like this. A one-page plan has your brand purpose, which communicates to your employees what you stand for. It has your core values that basically tells your people how to conduct themselves on a day-to-day basis. It has your blue sky vision. What is it that you're looking to achieve? And then it has your 5-year goals, which is the long-term goals. It's got your yearly goals. And then what is it you want to accomplish in the next 90 days to make sure that your annual goals and long-term goals have happened? And it also has a SWOT analysis. What are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in your business? Here's the thing. You don't have to have a 32-page plan or a, $10,000 business plan to get everybody on the same page. As a matter of fact, I think those things are so useless, it's ridiculous. We have found that with our clients, we've done this for over 1,100 businesses. What we have found is when you can simplify it and get everybody on the same, literally on the same page, what you see happen is everybody gets on the same page, everybody knows what their expectations are, everybody becomes more productive, which means that you become more profitable, and it means you can grow your business faster. So if you would like our help in helping you creating that plan, we've actually are coming up, starting I think on March the 4th. Yeah, March the 4th, which is next week. We're actually going to walk those who qualify for this program called Lead with Purpose. It's a six week, sounds like that didn't sound right. A 6-week program to actually help you build your one-page plan. Now, this isn't an open enrollment type of thing. You actually have to apply. So if you would like our assistance in creating this one-page plan, simply go to cornerstonebusinesscoaching.com/application. Again, it's cornerstonebusinesscoaching.com/application. And before we leave this page, if you do nothing else today, the 2 big action items that you can take away with you right now is number one, Be very, very clear on who your target market is. What are their demographics? What are their psychographics? The second thing is that if you have not communicated your expectations to your people yet in a manner that is specific, measurable, and timely, please do that as well. And the last action item is take some time to develop. Where do I want my business to be 1 year from now? Where do I want it to be 3 years from now? Where do I want it to be 5 years from now? Because that'll start at least acting as a compass for where you want to take your business, and it'll help you make better decisions and will kind of take away some of the noise that happens with all the offers that we get on a day-to-day basis. Hope I last but not least, I just want to thank everybody for coming. I know that you could spend your time doing anything else, going out there and selling, going out there and talking to your people, but you chose to spend it here. I hope this call was helpful for you today. And I hope that this helps you take your business to the next level and free up your time. If you ever want to get a hold of me, you can reach me personally at 713-530-9764, or you can email me at calvarez@focalpointcoaching.com. Hope this was helpful for you, and have a great day. Bye-bye.